Hello and welcome once again to Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News. It has occurred to me that our initial TV broadcast takes place on Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m. This is a time when some people are sitting down to have dinner. To help preserve everyone's appetite, I have decided not to appear on camera this week. Now let's get on with the rundown. Well, as usual, we have news, a fair amount of news. Then we'll have a roll-in all about the second Arlington Town Hall. That's a goodie. This will be followed by Community Bulletin Board, also known as CBB, and the Toilet Paper Patrol, known as TPP. Then we might have a roll-in, or we might not, depending on how much time I need to fill, or maybe we'll put that at the end. After that, we have 55 plus news, what little there is of it. Then another roll-in all about an energy audit. This is interesting. They have some neat toys. And that's our show. But before we get to that, we have the social media reminder. You can watch the Arlington Weekly News on our YouTube channel. That's Arlington Weekly News and the number 1. Also on Facebook, more than ever, because there's a lot of updates there. And on the good old radio, WERA 96.7 FM. Let's get on with the news. Keeping up with our COVID count, remembering on March 9th, 2020, the first COVID-19 case in Arlington was announced, and then reports as of Saturday, April 4th, indicated the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Arlington was up to 181. Well, reports as of Monday morning, April 13th, showed the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Arlington is now up to 390. That is still an approximate doubling of case numbers in about a week. And of course, these figures are still likely to increase because of restrictions of access to testing. Again, as long as drive-up testing remains available only to symptomatic patients, the potential for the virus to spread among apparently healthy people will remain. There is some nice news from the Virginia Hospital Center. They announced that they have been able to increase their effective capacity by over 70%. That should hold off overcrowding for a while at least. Meanwhile, the beat goes on. The crime beat, that is. Governor Northam's stay-at-home order still not being observed by local criminals. The April 10th Daily Crime Report listed a burglary. That was late, 1800 block of Crystal Drive at about 6:09 p.m. On the 9th, actually. It was determined that at some point prior to 4 o'clock on April 8th, an unknown suspect forced entry to a residence and stole items of value. No suspect description. Then we had a larceny at 4900 block of Columbia Pike. Larceny from auto, that was at the 2000 block of 14th Street North. And some fraud, instance of fraud at the 800 block of North Glebe Road. And a traffic offense, that was Arlington Boulevard at South Park Drive. This being the report from April 10th, it looked like some people didn't have a very good Friday. Now it's time for a roll-in. This will be Arlington's Town Hall. Okay, it's time for another update from Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News. This is number 12 about town halls and testing. Arlington County conducted their second virtual town hall meeting on Friday, April 10th, 2020. We had submitted a question this time. How many COVID-19 tests have actually been performed in Arlington County? We submitted this question because there has been considerable discussion in the national news about the need for additional testing for the COVID-19 virus. National commentators point out the sheer size of the U.S. population, which is estimated at 335 million people, and say that it's too many. Others speak of the 2 million United States citizens who have already been tested, and they say that that's not enough. The population of Virginia is estimated at about 8.6 million. As of April 6th, about 24,000 Virginians had been tested. The population of Arlington County is estimated at about 236,000. We have not been able to determine how many Arlingtonians have been tested. We do know that the drive-up sites will test only symptomatic patients over the age of 18 who have a written notice from their physician. On the national scale, 2 million out of 335 million is only a little more than 0.5%. On the state scale, 24,000 out of 8.6 million is even less, under 0.3%. The lack of local details makes comparisons difficult, but there are a few questions that might be worth considering. In order to obtain a driver's license, applicants are required to take a test in order to demonstrate their competency to operate a motor vehicle. Virginia has about 5.9 million licensed drivers. That's more than 67% of the state's population. Admittedly, this number was reached over many years, but the question is this: is it more urgent to test for a citizen's driving proficiency than to determine whether or not they are carrying a life-threatening virus for which there is no known cure? There are a couple of unfortunate things about testing. First, even a 33% test rate might seem impressive, but if only 1 out of 3 people is tested, then the 2 untested persons could be carrying the virus and then infect the other one even though he tested negative at the time. Second, even if all 3 people tested negative today, they could still contract the virus by the following week. Finally, there is the false sense of reassurance that a low rate of testing creates. The fewer the tests, the fewer the confirmed cases. Taken to its logical extreme, if there were no tests at all, there would be no confirmed cases to report. Meanwhile, the virus would continue to spread regardless of the reported numbers. However, the town hall meeting never got around to the question of testing, and the topic for next week is set to be food. Still, it was a good meeting, apart from the people still complaining about the tennis courts being closed. We have all been called upon to give up some things when it might not seem strictly necessary, but complaining about it does not demonstrate the best community attitude. At any rate, the main topic of the current meeting was announced as business. Arlingtonians were encouraged to support local businesses who have managed to remain at least partly open, such as restaurants who have converted to carry-out and delivery. When the question arose as to what could be done to help the businesses who had been forced to close completely, no citizen-based solution was provided. They were referred only to government programs. In a somewhat related story, the subject of limited supplies came up, but nobody mentioned the phrase toilet paper. Later, I discovered that the Safeway on Wilson Boulevard near Emerson Street had a fairly substantial supply, so perhaps that part of the crisis is over. Wishing you a happy Easter. Signing off. Moving along to Community Bulletin Board. As we mentioned previously, Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News has stepped up our coverage by posting frequent updates to our Facebook page. One of the recurring items has been the Toilet Paper Patrol, which we have abbreviated to TPP. We have 2 noteworthy items to report. We had previously reported some encouraging signs in our periodic tours of the stores in Arlington. Sadly, as of our Easter weekend tour, that trend has reversed, with only a couple of stores having any substantial supply. We did discover an unexpected positive note along North George Mason Drive. A private citizen had set up a small table in front of their house containing a few rolls of paper towels, a few rolls of toilet paper, and 3 cans of food. Below, they had placed a sign saying, "Got a roll? Give a roll. Need a roll? Take a roll." This is a refreshing new take on the old "got a penny, leave a penny, need a penny, take a penny" that was once common in the small town stores. Much as we hate to say it, there's no other way to describe the person responsible for this than as a true role model. Returning to our two main sources for CBB stories, Arlington's Park and Recreation website remains unchanged from last week. There is still a listing for a June 6th Red Cross training session for babysitters, and that still seems unlikely given Governor Northam's stay-at-home order, which runs through June 10th. The other listing still says that the Arlington County Fair is being planned for August 12th through August 15th. Time will tell. The other commonly used CBB source is the website for the Arlington County Public Libraries. The limitations of the current ebook selections were already acknowledged in the most recent Arlington Town Hall meeting. However, it has become increasingly apparent that the Arlington libraries have an unfortunately short memory for books, even in normal times. 4 years ago, it was possible to borrow a copy of a delightful book called Verse by the Side of the Road. It was the story of the old Burma Shave ad campaign, which included such memorable rhymes as, "Don't stick out your arm too far, it might go home in another car." An online search reveals that it is no longer available. Another example is the writing team of Stanley and Janice Berenstain. From the 1950s through the early 1970s, the husband and wife team created a series of text and cartoon books exploring family life in suburbia, including It's All in the Family, It's Still in the Family, Mr. Dirty versus Mrs. Clean, Flipsville, Squaresville, Marital Blitz, and You Could Diet Laughing. These books were written for adult audiences, but could be enjoyed by kids aged 10 and up. The Arlington County Library System has forgotten all of them, but they have dozens of the kid-oriented Berenstain Bears series. Here's another classic for both kids and adults. It's called No Dessert Until You Finish Your Mashed Potatoes, and it is filled with kids-eye perspectives on parental commandments. Your friendly Arlington County Public Library, though, doesn't have it. Arlington Independent Media's Spring Fund Drive was nominally set for March 29th through April 12th. However, there will be 2 special showings of Miriam Gennari's Styrofoam Mom movie as an extension of the drive. The first showing will air on Monday, April 20th from 7 o'clock to 8:30 p.m., with a repeat showing on Saturday, April 25th from noon to 1:30 p.m. Both showings will include bonus material not previously seen in the original movie. Now it's time for 55 Plus news. Sadly, the 55 Plus website is still empty of activities. We had hoped to be able to report on some online alternatives, but nothing is listed. For those who enjoyed the previous Comedy Club suggestions, we have prepared another installment of Radio Free Filler, continuing in the spirit of the old USO radio broadcasts. You can find both episodes on YouTube by searching for AWN Radio Free Filler. Since these videos were not monetized, there will be no annoying commercial displays or interruptions. For other activities, well, one advantage of being over 55 is being able to remember activities that did not require a lot of equipment or high-tech gizmos. You can still have a lot of fun with a pencil and paper. Even if you're not a serious artist, you can try your hand at cartooning. First, try drawing a picture of someone or something that you like. Then you can try drawing a picture of someone or something that you don't like. You just might rediscover the birth of political cartooning. That's creative fun with an edge. For those of you who want more Comedy Club via YouTube, you can have a lot of fun just by going to YouTube and looking up Alan Sherman, Spike Jones, and or Stan Freberg. Between the three of them, they'll keep you laughing for hours. Now it's time for a roll-in. This is an interview we did coupled with an energy audit.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Sustainable Scoop. I am here in Arlington, Virginia on March 26th. Many things that are taking place normally around the world are not happening today because of COVID-19. But we had an energy audit on the schedule for my very good friend Mary, who is thinking about selling her house but wants to have all the environmental questions answered so that she's in the best position to negotiate and the people who want to buy the house are in the best position to know what they have to look forward to in energy costs. Joining me today is Scott Donaldson. He is with Home Energy Medics. They will be going around Mary's house today, doing an energy audit and talking about sustainability and the most important thing that you can do, make sure that your home has a tight envelope, but it's breathable so that you can enjoy the elements when and how you choose. And now I'd like to introduce you to Scott.
Hi, I'm Scott Donaldson from Home Energy Medics. I'm here to do an energy audit with Mrs. Fontuccio. And Ms. Fontuccio, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about our process today and what we're going to go through. And you're welcome to ask me any questions along the way, or right now if you have anything that is of concern to you. But what we're going to do, we're going to start out with a exterior inspection. We're going to look around the whole house, look at drainage and grade and attic ventilation and so forth. Then we're going to spend some time looking around the interior of the house. Then as part of that, we'll look in the basement, in the attic and so forth. And then we're going to do what's called combustion safety testing. And that's actually the most important part of the audit because that's actually for your health and safety. We check your oven and make sure it's not spewing out too much carbon monoxide gas. And then we also look at your water heater and your boiler and make sure they're venting up the chimney properly and drawing out those gases. So once we get all that done, then we're going to do what's called a blower door test. It simulates a 20-mile-an-hour wind on the house, and we will find all the various leak paths that air's escaping and you're paying to heat and cool unnecessarily through the winter months for certain. So, and then part of that, when you have the blower door running, we'll go around with an infrared camera and we'll see where all those leak paths are in the camera because it measures hot and cold, and we'll see that in the picture. So it's like X-ray vision. We can look right behind the walls and see things that may not be readily apparent looking right at it. So, and the process normally takes about 5 hours to complete. And then at the end, we'll go through some of our findings that we have verbally, and then we'll follow it up with the report and discuss what the action plan is to move forward. So,
thank you, Scott. That sounds wonderful. I think this will be very helpful when I go to sell my house to know what needs to be fixed, what can be left alone, and what's safe to leave as it is. Well, we had water coming in after the addition was built, and we would put plastic and bricks on top of it. They built a wall and re-sloped and did a French drain, which drains into the front over there.
Okay.
And any extra water comes and waters these flowers. It doesn't just flood into the sewer.
Yeah, it's super important to get the water shed away from the house. We see too many people, the ground slopes towards the house, and then they end up putting in a French drain in the basement, and all they're doing is kind of recycling the water. It comes in and they pump it back out.
Outside.
If you just keep it away from the foundation and grading away, it's remarkable what difference it makes. Well, I'm going to catch up with Chris here. He's running around. He's making sure he's taking pictures of all four sides of the house. We don't have AC plate to take picture up, but he's looking at your drainage and grade, which shouldn't be a problem. We're looking at your roof, if there's venting on the roof. We've got it's shingle type. We're gonna go around the house with the with our nifty app, and we're gonna essentially make a electronic floor plan of the house, and we'll know how the house is laid out. We'll know room, areas per room, and our square footage per room, and then we'll also get a feel for what the total area is then of the house. What we're doing here is we're measuring the carbon monoxide output of the oven. So remember, you're burning natural gas, and those gases have to go somewhere. Well, we checked out your furnace and your water heater, and those are measuring on the order of 7 to 9, I think it was, somewhere right in there, parts per million. And those have draft hoods and flue pipes that are going to the outside. This oven, for instance, is not. These gases are rolling right out inside the house here, and I can feel this hot, and it's producing 110 parts per million of CO. So that's why I said it's super important that you actually use your fan all the time when you've got that oven on. So whether it's warming up or you're actually baking something. Crank it up. Wide open, you can't reach it. Well, maybe you can, it's been close. Yeah, we're measuring the air coming in. This is simulating a 20-mile-an-hour wind on your house. So from kind of on all four sides. Okay, what we're seeing here is we're seeing air movement all around what we call the band joists of the house. So there's all this cold air rushing in around the edges of that wood and coming into the house. You can see it here in the cobwebs moving. You can see it over here and the cobwebs moving too.
I want to thank all of you for joining Mary and I on this wonderful tour of how to make your home more sustainable. I want to thank Scott Donaldson and his assistant Chris, and of course everyone watching at home as we try to make our homes more efficient and at the same time keep one another safe. I'm Miriam Gennari. That's the Sustainable Scoop. Back to the news desk.
Well, that pretty much concludes our show. However, for those of you who missed the cherry blossoms this year, we will close with an original composition performed by our very own Jorge Serafin, and which is also entitled Cherry Blossoms. We'll see you next week.